At 2 in the morning, the glow of a smartphone creates a small, solitary circle of awareness. The house feels distant and secure. We operate under the assumption that our physical environment is a series of hard boundaries. We trust that gravity, height, and locked glass are objective obstacles that prevent the outside world from entering our private space. For a 14-year-old in a second-story bedroom, these boundaries were a nightly certainty. The routine was simple: lock the window, turn out the light, and rely on the 15-foot drop to the ground for safety. That certainty broke at 2 a.m. Looking toward the window, the teenager saw a face pressed against the glass, staring in from the darkness. This architectural elevation illustrates the impossibility of that sight. The window is set into a sheer wall, with no balcony, no ledges, and no trees within reach. There is no physical path for a person to reach that glass. When the light was switched on, the face vanished. However, the investigation the following morning revealed a physical contradiction: a set of muddy footprints on the roof tiles directly outside that second-story window. The terror in this encounter is the failure of the environment. Height and verticality cease to function as barriers, allowing a physical presence to occupy an inaccessible space. When we cannot observe our environment directly, we use technology to bridge the gap. We treat a baby monitor as a reliable data point, an objective extension of our own senses. At 1:30 a.m., a couple heard the monitor crackle. A calm male voice came through the speaker and stated that their daughter was awake. They entered the nursery to find the room empty and the child fast asleep. The digital alert had no physical correspondence to the state of the room. Then the monitor spoke again. It told them to turn around. But the sound no longer originated from the speaker in their hand. It was projected from the empty air behind them. The technology meant to secure the home became the mechanism for a spatial anomaly. The voice didn't just bypass the door, it bypassed the physics of sound and source. The Nevada desert at 3 a.m. provides a complete absence of external data. The only reference points are road lines and lights in the mirror. When a black SUV appeared behind a lone driver, it broke that isolation. For an hour, the vehicle stayed in the rearview mirror, refusing to pass or fall behind. This schematic shows the mathematical anomaly of the pursuit. Regardless of acceleration, the SUV maintained a fixed, unvarying distance. When the driver pulled into a gas station, the SUV stopped at the perimeter, keeping that exact mathematical distance. When the driver looked back a second later, the SUV had vanished. There were no sounds of tires or engines, and no lights visible on the horizon in any direction. Security footage from the station later provided the evidentiary void. The cameras recorded the driver's car entering the lot, but they showed nothing on the highway behind them. The SUV was absent from the digital record of the physical world. The encounter demonstrates a total disconnect between personal perception and empirical reality. The driver shared the road with a mass that left no footprint. Within the structure of an apartment building, we rely on the permanence of the floors above and below us. In one building, the unit above a long-term tenant had been documented as vacant for 3 years. Yet every night at exactly 2:47 a.m., the sound of rhythmic pacing began. These were heavy, physical footsteps that moved back and forth for hours. After weeks of this auditory intrusion, the tenant confronted the landlord, expecting to hear about a squatter or a maintenance issue. The landlord's response was not one of concern, but of factual confusion. As this cross-section illustrates, there is no unit above that tenant. They live on the top floor of the structure. The sound was being generated in a space that physically does not exist. The structural permanence of the building, the very thing that defines our position in space, had fractured. The tenant was hearing the movements of a presence that had no floor to stand on. When the rules of space and geometry fail, the final constant to fall is the linear progression of time. At 3:12 a.m., a homeowner received a motion alert from their backyard security camera. The footage appeared normal, showing the dark lawn and the back door. However, the timestamp on the video feed began to accelerate. While the homeowner's clock read 3:12, the camera was displaying events from 3:13, 3:14, and 3:15. This chart maps the temporal divergence. The camera recorded the future. At 3:16, the homeowner saw their future self step outside. They investigated. Real-time hit 316, synchronizing the projection. A second figure appeared directly behind them. Recording and reality converged. The camera feed cut to black before the homeowner could turn around. The projection ended at the exact moment the threat became present. Each of these accounts leaves behind a specific kind of evidence: footprints where no one could climb, sounds where no floor exists, and recordings of a future that hasn't happened. These events don't require a remote wilderness or a haunted history. They occur in the most ordinary spaces during the most ordinary hours. The terror in these stories is the discovery that our physical world is porous. The locks, the walls, and the seconds on the clock are only suggestions, and sometimes they simply stop working.